If you haven't already watched the Van de Graaff safety video or the safety and operations video, please do that now. The next one we're going to do is we're going to use the Van de Graaff to cause humans to conduct electricity. It sounds a lot scarier than it really is, so let's take a look at this one. First, again, when I approach the dome, I'm going to touch the grounding sphere, the grounding rod, to the large dome. That way we discharge whatever spark was there previously. And I can turn this on and off. Again, I usually like to turn it down at the start. So before we do that, I'm going to show you a dry run of what's going to happen here. So I'm going to have Nick approach, and Nick is going to hold this light bulb, but Nick will never get closer than this grounding sphere, right? Because if he does, he's going to get sparked. So we want Nick to get close to this dome, but we don't want him to get any closer than this grounding sphere. All right? Otherwise, he'll be getting the spark that's going to jump over here. And then what will happen is, well, let's just take a look. We don't see too much happening there, but you might see a tiny flicker. Let's go ahead and have Nick take a step back. Now Alex is going to come up and do the same thing and hold the light bulb a different way, and he wants to make sure that he's not touching these electrodes to here, otherwise he might get a little bit more spark than he's hoping for. But in this case, go ahead and take a step back for just a second. I'm going to get it going, and then he's going to approach. Go ahead and approach. And hopefully you can see that light bulb flickering a little bit. And as a variation, Alex, why don't you grab it right in the middle of the light bulb? This is a very fun way to do this one because you'll notice that one side of the light bulb will flicker while the other side does not. So clearly Alex is one side of the circuit and he's connecting it. And hopefully you can see that bulb flickering a little bit. It's a little bit tough with the lights, so we'll try it again with the lights out in just a minute to emphasize this effect. This is a great classroom demo. It's not one that's going to work great at the science night. So let's take a look at this again with the lights low. Here we go. Switch. Hopefully what you notice here, switch, is whoever's holding the rod radially outwards from the sphere gets a larger effect. And I'll explain that in just a second. Switch! So what happens here is, for example, Alex is holding his light bulb along an equipotential. So there's not a huge difference in voltage, whereas switch, now when he holds it this way, there's a large potential difference between the dome and going outwards radially from the dome, so more current flows. So you should see more flickering when they're holding it radially outwards from the dome than parallel to the surface of the dome. Switch! And that's kind of fun. Very cool. And of course, ultimately, why is the bulb lighting up? They're connecting the circuit, so the electricity must be running through them. Now you might be wondering, why aren't they getting electrocuted? We have very high voltage, but very low current, and it's the current that really kills, so that's not a really a huge issue here. You could get sparked with this, and it would be very uncomfortable, and you wouldn't like it, but you'd still be all right. A fun variation on this is to use a colored light bulb. So you can use a neon spectrum tube that we have here. So why don't you go ahead and hold this one, and we can see hopefully the colored gas light up. Let's give that a whirl. Ready? And you can see, go ahead and rotate it now the other direction. And you can see that the neon lamps light up. So that's a fun variation you can do. And that's using humans to conduct electricity.